So as we have wrapped up our series on the book of Revelation, I wanted to just kind of make a couple comments on the last two chapters that we looked at. Revelation 21 and 22 are looking at the eternal state that God has for his people. In chapter 21, if you remember, we look at the inheritance that we will receive. And the first inheritance is the most spectacular of all inheritance. It's like, no, verse 3 is like the most majestic verse of all. Like, what do we get for our inheritance? God himself. It's like we are with God. But we also get a glorified body, a sanctified body, a body that has no more pain and no more suffering and no more mourning. We have a perfect body going into the eternal state. And then he describes the perfect holy city. Heaven and earth are now becoming one. Heaven is coming to earth and we get our inheritance. We see the holy city. It's the place that Jesus says, I'm going to prepare a place for you so that where I am, you may also be. So it's why I said, I believe that those who die right now are ushered to this place where they are not just with Jesus, that they are taken to the place that he has prepared for them. And then in Revelation chapter 22, we just kind of looked at the very first, 6 or so verses, 5 verses. And what you see is really that the Genesis curse is reversed. The curse that you see from sin in Genesis 3 is completely undone. And so we see that we have the very permanent presence of God. There's no longer any alienation. We have a perfect presence with God. We see that we're going to worship him freely. We see that we are going to see him face to face. It's no longer that we see in a mirror dimly. We will know God fully just as we have been fully known. We are forever sealed by God. It has the idea that we're no longer hostile towards God, like Ephesians 4:18 tells us, that we are forever sealed. We are his forever. And so it just goes on and how we have a permanent provision and how we are going to reign with him forever. Now, the verses that I didn't tackle really were verses 6 all the way to the end of 17. And those are really kind of an epilogue. It's words that are meant to give comfort to the reader, to you and I, as we now have seen what God has revealed to John. And simplistically, what I think he shows us is really kind of 3 things. One is that in light of all this that has been revealed to us, what is it meant to produce? 1, worship. That we see God, look what he has done for us. We're meant to just, in verses 8 and 9, it's like we're meant to worship him. And then in verse 11 and 12, I think what also is it meant to produce? It's meant to produce evangelism. That we want to tell others of what Jesus has done on our behalf. That not only are we recipients of God's grace, we're meant to be ambassadors as well. We're meant to proclaim it and say, you too can have life. You can have this inheritance, not just God himself, but a perfection and a place for you if you will come to him. To those who are thirsty, he will give living water without price. And then lastly, it's meant to produce in the reader, for you and I, perseverance. Like, no matter how hard things are, and no matter how difficult things get, and know how dark times can be, he's like, you persevere, because glory's awaiting us. So, what a great book the book of Revelation is. I hope you've enjoyed it.